Hi, my name is Willow Volante, and I am the CEO of Volante Design. We specialize in nerdy attire, specifically video game and pop culture inspired work. We work with some licenses, and we do some of our own original design work.
So one of the major questions I have for you is, what's the biggest misconception when working in the fashion industry, especially when it comes to products you make that are licensed for like video games or your own style, like the Cyberpunk line you have coming out?
The biggest misconception is probably that it's easy to like outsource stuff and figure out where you're gonna get something made, that like if you have a cool idea, you can probably bring it to life and make it work. That has not always been our experience. It takes a lot of organization. It takes a lot of different skill sets. We are kind of unique in that we do every part of the process ourselves. We've basically found it's easier to do it ourselves than to wrangle other people into doing it. And we get better results, so.
For a specific example, like with your Cyberpunk inspired line, like how long does that take from concept to actual physically having a consumer-based product ready to sell at your store?
Yeah, it takes about, well, so my production manager would want me to tell you it takes 12 weeks because that's how long she wants to be able to do the development and order all the pieces and order all the fabric. My designer would tell you it takes, a week to design a great product. So somewhere in that range is probably about right. The Cyberpunk stuff is like our original design pieces, so we don't have to go through the licensing thing. That definitely makes it a little faster.
Look, speaking of that, you do have like licensed IPs for like Devil May Cry and Assassin's Creed, arguably really cool jackets and hoodies that they wear in those games. What are some challenges when bringing those into real life? Because video games, everyone's hair is always perfect. The jackets fold perfectly when they flip or get damaged, like they never tear or bend or anything. They're using a lot of starch on them in the video games, I guess. I don't know. What are some of the challenges when bringing those into real life? Yeah,
pro level of starch. Well, yeah, you so know exactly that is one of the bigger challenges, is to say like, oh, those tails are just coming out of the back of his belt somehow, or the back of his shirt, like, or that jacket would probably trail on the floor, but because he's Bond, it ripples behind him with epic wind, like. So there are always translations where you want to have that like epic length in let's say a Spawn jacket, but you still want to be able to walk and not like fall on your nose, because we are trying to make like streetwear. We want it to be wearable. We want you to be able to get use out of it on a daily.
Has there been like an IP that you've worked on or maybe want to work on that you're really interested in designing a clothing line for?
Yeah, so there's a ton. We would love to work with Star Wars. I mean, the fashion there is awesome. It's just like, it's just really fun already. We would love to work with Destiny. A lot of really cool characters and like consistent lines that are sort of really strong style language. There are some cool animes, but again, it's like Final Fantasy has some cool lines and designs, but sometimes they just wear like a turtleneck cut off at this, so there's like, is that for us? It's kind of hard to tell sometimes, but those are a few that, yeah.
The Final Fantasy has a lot of belts for some reason on a lot of their stuff.
And like a lot of really big pants that somehow manage to stay on and look good. That I'm not sure how we would do that, but that would be a fun challenge for sure.
So talk a little about, you have a Cyberpunk line coming out. Like, talk about what went into the inspirations around that. I mean, obviously you said 12 weeks ideally, right, is the production design time. But like, what went into the design of it? Like, what were your inspirations? Obviously, it's a big genre with a lot of different ways to interpret it. Yeah. So we call it our Augment Collection because we want to like give you that sense of like of a dystopian sort of like added to reality where maybe people have more cybernetic elements in their lives. We actually have been working on it for a couple of years. We have a few pieces in that collection. We're just really expanding it this season. So it's not a brand new collection for our site, but it is really getting some depth and some like, we have really enjoyed watching the like rise of cyberpunk games and style. And I think we've kind of been working on these since like, I want to say 2019,
was our first Augment piece. Probably like when Metroid came out, like around that time, we were like looking at things like that.
You know, the one thing I really like about like your clothing line in general is that you actually make a wide variety of sizes for your jackets and outfits. It's something that I know a lot of people who are huskier and like they may look at something but like, that's great, that's a reverse V, I don't have that, like it's not, you know, or they don't make it in my size. What makes you, is it harder to make jackets and fashion for the husky gentleman or curvy woman like in 2021? What are some of the challenges when making something design that looks good, whether you're, you know, a slimmer build or a larger build?
Yeah, there are definitely challenges. I have to say it's one of my favorite things to do when somebody walks by our booth and say, that's so cool, but it'd never work for me. I love to like flag that person down and say, give me a shot, like try one on. I actually think you're gonna be surprised. I will say we've really spent time building out our men's line in a large variety of sizes. And we have a lot of sizes in women's, but not as many because there are just in our experience of our customers, there are like slightly fewer women, unfortunately. Although we are working on that. I actually think that a good piece of tailoring goes a really long way to making you feel good. And honestly, it has very little to do with what your build is. We've never really struggled to fit those larger guys.
I mean, it can be hard because like everyone's body's different. Like there's a million different body types, you know, no two bodies are identical, you know what I mean? So and when you work in fashion, you know, you want as many people to wear it as possible sometimes, you know what I mean? So that can be a challenge in itself as well.
You know, we've spent about 8 years like trying to tweak our pattern. Every time we make something new, we spend some time going, okay, well, what did we learn from the last batch? Does the sleeve need to be a little longer? And of course, it's not perfect for everybody. Like, you're totally right. There's just no way. But we've done a pretty good job, I think, of getting like the mean or the average, and really like giving enough wiggle room to make it work. Yeah.
You also have you have a very unique way of people discovering what size they are for your fashion products on your site. Talk a little about how you developed that concept of like the chest, waist, hip, and low hip.
Yeah, so we originally did our stuff in like small, medium, and large, and people ordered like the t-shirt size they were used to ordering. Maybe it's because our audience wasn't that aware of fashion. Maybe it's because they were, I don't know, they just were used to buying t-shirts maybe, or they thought American sizing, but we wanted it to fit really like just so. So we decided to just sort of throw out conventional sizing and make our own. Most fashion companies actually do throw out conventional sizing and make their own, but they stick with the names. So you're kind of a little bit snookered either way. You go, okay, you still have to read the sizing chart and say, okay, my waist size is X, my, inseam is Y. So then I must be a medium. And we've sort of said, well, maybe if we just make it even less clear that that's what a medium is, people will have to read the numbers and say, oh, okay, so I'm a 37. And we wanted to like get people more in touch with the real numbers, like a suit sizing, the real numbers of their body, and not like fudged it with like a 0 or a vanity sizing. Even suit sizing has an ample amount of vanity size in there so that it's less close fitting, basically. We kind of wanted to find a version of a true size. And our little robot that helps you figure it out is new, which I really like. You can put in your numbers and it'll say, we suggest this if you like a loose fit. So that's our newest update.
It sounds like you have a really intuitive system, and now like with their little robot, people can find out the exact size that they need to get for them to be comfortable in what they're wearing.
Yeah, that's the goal. We also do free exchanges. So if we're wrong, which happens, there's no skin in the game in that way.
And that's important for clothes in general, because I think like clothes are one of the things like sometimes you really do need to try it on and look in a mirror to see how you feel and look about it. And it's cool that you offer that. Are all your orders made to order? Are they custom like when you order one, or do you have a warehouse full of inventory you use?
It's a good question. So we try to do the warehouse model, but often, so we do offer some alterations. So we also offer custom work, although very limitedly. We used to do a lot more custom work, and we found we just couldn't keep up. So that was why we started doing more inventory, because we found that most people didn't want to pay the custom price, and then didn't want to wait the custom amount of time. They wanted something they could have now. So we do custom work occasionally, and we do it very selectively based on what sort of is right for our design direction that year.
Yeah, people don't seem to understand like when you make something custom, it's literally custom, and there's an hourly amount of labor to that, and with materials and design and everything like that, and it can get really expensive really fast. Hey, and it will be custom, but yeah, it's going to be, like you said, the custom price.
Right. One of the most amazing questions I've gotten was, you know, could you just change the thread color on this jacket? I'm just like, the thread actually is holding the jacket together. Like, I really don't want to insult you, but that is just not how it works.
Who's your clientele normally? Because obviously your stuff would look great for cosplay, but you also try to do a spin on it for like everyday wear, or maybe, you know, just like, you know, a night out or something like that.
I think we have a lot of customers who work in like tech and arts and gaming, who are like, this is clearly their lifestyle. This is clearly their lives. Maybe not so unlike yourself. It's something they're doing. They may not necessarily work in an office, although some of them do. And, you know, even if they do work in an office, usually they can like play a little. They get to have a little bit of, like, we do have, you know, we have some button-up shirts and vests that are like more office-y. I think most of our customers are they're just geeks. They've been geeks their whole lives. And it's just, they really embrace that that's who they are and that's who they want to be. They grew up with this culture going on, whether it's gaming or fantasy or whatever else, tabletop.
Do you ever get requests, I mean, probably all the time, for people to have like maybe something's only available on women's, but someone wants it in a men's cut, or vice versa?
We do, we try to offer as many of those as we can. We also do like a unifit line, which is our intent to like make it fairly genderless. So there are a lot of products that don't need to be like a men's cut or a women's cut, that they can be nicely flexible. Like a lot of our soft shirts are pretty stretchy and easy to go in either way.
No, at the start of the interview, I asked about the biggest misconception with your company and how it works. But another question kind of that segments into that is, people have watched The Devil Wears Prada. Like, what's the biggest misconception of like the fashion industry? Is it as cutthroat and like crazy as we've seen in reality TV shows and feature films and all that stuff?
You know, it is, but we aren't doing it like that. We're not in the fashion world. We don't have seasons. You know, just because we released a Star Trek jacket in the fall doesn't mean you're gonna not like Star Trek next spring. Like, it's not gonna be out. We don't have to follow the color trends. You know, oh, we gotta make it in mauve because that's the color of the year. Like, thankfully, we're not really in the fashion industry in that way. That's another reason we've really kind of focused on doing it our own way. We make our own patterns, we cut our own fabric, we buy and source all of our own fabric. We make all the first samples and all the grading, so nobody touches our patterns but us. The only thing we ever outsource is the production of a large quantity. Even that we're bringing in-house. We're hiring for our own little factory so we can do everything here.
How big is your team?
There are 10 of us today. There will be 12 of us next week.
Oh, wow, so you're growing. That's great.
Yeah, thanks.
That's fantastic. Like, I mean, yeah, you have such a wide variety of line. I mean, like you said, you have your officially licensed line, you have your original collections, but you also have like, I would say formal attire. Like, you also have vests and stuff. Like, they're themed, but like you have like vests and suits and jackets. Like, you kind of run the gamut. Like, is it difficult trying to decide what you're going to do next? Like, if it's going to be a licensed thing, or if you're going to make more formal wear, more casual wear?
It can be, but we try to like get ahead of ourselves enough that we can like do a little bit of everything in different seasons. So we try to be kind of seasonal, right? We just did a vest and a shirt in July because it's July, and we didn't do a wool coat, which we did one in January, February, you know. So we do kind of some seasonal stuff. With our licenses, we want to hit like certain beats with their calendar. So like, we know Assassin's Creed often has a fall, you know, event, so that we might try and like do something Assassin's Creed in that time frame, or sort of coordinating with what's going on.
One of the things I've always found fascinating in video games is designers with fascinations with the hoodie in game characters. Like, they love hoodies, and the hoodies always lay perfectly flat. They always cut off at the nose so you can't see the eyes, right? But like, is there difficulty when designing specifically a hoodie or a hood on a jacket or a vest from a fashion point of view that you don't get in the video game space?
Well, definitely structure is, you're dead right, is one of them. Getting it to really work well can be tough. It's a funny thing people don't usually think about, but people's heads and hair can be quite different in size. So like if you have a lot of hair, it can really be tough to like get it in the hood, like if that's the world you're living in. Other people are like, the hood is too large. I don't like how much there is around my face. And yeah, I think I forgot your question, but
no, it's funny. That's the fascination with like characters specifically in games and hoods. It's just weird. You know, they always put a hood on them. And like I said, they always cut perfectly every time. They never move when they jump. You know what I mean? Like they're always perfect. And I just think it's interesting to try to recreate that physically. It's got to be a challenge.
It is a challenge, and our designer is, I would say he's a genius. He would certainly never want to say that, but he's really excellent. He's self-taught. He makes every single one of our patterns and tests them out and is like, okay, this works, this doesn't, tweak this. I certainly could not do that.
You know, what's cool too is you have not only you have stuff that's pulled directly from the game or as close as possibly as you can, but you also have lines that like are inspired by, like you have a Mega Man jacket, right? And like Mega Man doesn't wear a jacket, but you have this really creative way of bringing those themes and those elements into the fashion world. Is there a preference you like when you work on those products? Do you like ones that have a little more creative freedom rather than just trying to copy exactly what the game gives you?
I think there's really good things about both worlds. I really like the departures. They're really fun. They're also a lot harder. I would say, like to say, oh, you know, the Mega Man one in particular was tough because it's like he wears like a bodysuit, which is like armored, basically, probably metal, and he has a blaster arm, and so we have to sort of translate that, and we do a little yellow zipper to be like, here are the lines, like the glow lights, kind of his booster charging or whatever. I don't think we do any like pure recreations. None of our stuff is just the thing that you saw because it's not that interesting to just totally repeat. We kind of like to take a little bit of a spin on it. We don't want to do a replica. We're not in replicas. We're in our version, or we call it streetwear. Some people might not find it street worthy because they might be more conservative, but yeah.
And then you use, I mean, obviously it changes based on the product, but what do you use mainly to create all of these sweaters and vests and jackets? Is it cotton?
Yeah, we do use a lot of cotton. We use a lot of natural fibers when we can. We like to use, I mean, we would love to use more fun things like wool, like we have some cool tech fabrics that we're playing with for this fall's. Like the thing about cotton that's a good mix is like it's really durable and it wears well and it's not, you know, $20 a yard, which is
and it breathes.
And it breathes and it's comfortable and it molds to your body. There are a lot of good things about it.
What can we look forward to from you in the future? Like, what are you guys working on now that you can talk about? Any upcoming licenses, original lines that you're working on right now?
Yeah, so we do have some really exciting pieces coming. We're doing a Lord of the Rings collection that I personally am really excited about. We have a few pieces out, but we're hoping to do like a little splashier that would include some categories we've never done before. So we have a button down, a vest, a jacket, but we're also hoping to do a dress, which is something we have not done before. We've really primarily served our male audience, and it's a new territory, an exciting territory.
Now,
yeah.
So I was gonna say, now is that fun for you because it's Lord of the Rings license, or because just medieval Renaissance has such a tremendous amount of flair and like creative freedom, like you can do so much with it? Is it both?
I think it's a little bit of both. I personally love the Lord of the Rings, have always loved the Lord of the Rings, grew up reading them, so that's fun. And I love that we get to play with that world. And then I agree with you, like it's wide open because we're working from the books and the descriptions are more like he wore gray. Like, oh, okay, we got a lot of room to play. What can we make?
Like with technology always evolving in every aspect of our lives on this planet, what have there been huge leaps in fashion specifically where like more laser cutting or more maybe computer generating concepts? Because it used to be just pen and paper measuring and you have to cut and sew yourself. I'm sure that's still part of the process, but how has that technology improved to help you make these concepts a reality?
Yeah, so the sewing world, the fashion world in a lot of ways is still in the Stone Age. Our sewing company that we sometimes work with in New York only just got like an email address that they know how to check. Like really, it's bad. But we do all our patterns digitally. A lot of the people I know who do fashion, especially in a smaller kind of way do patterns on paper, or they do draping, which is a total art of its own. But being able to do our patterns digitally, even just to like sketch something digitally, is so much faster and so much more communicative to, like, even when we're sending something to licenses, we can sketch out a design, or hopefully soon we're going to have some 3D rendering software so that we can show, okay, this is what the design would look like, and you can rotate the character and see kind of from multiple angles what they would look like. Again, we don't have that yet, but that's still miles ahead of what most fashion or what the fashion world in general does. We just got, and I am so excited about it, a cutting table that can do like 60 millimeters of fabric, compressed fabric, which is like about 100 layers. It's a cut blade, and it's a new, I don't know if it's a new technology, but it's definitely newer, and it's new to us and it feels to us like a big advancement.
Just more tools to make your craft. Either you can do more complicated things or do simpler things faster, right? That's basically what it is.
Yeah, but the sewing machine remains unchanged from like the 1920s. No, truly, it has not changed.
That's amazing.
Almost at all. They're a little quieter now. They're a little smoother, but since the like electric motor was invented, they're pretty much the same.
So the IPs, how do they work? Do you reach out to the owners, in this case, New Line Cinema with Lord of the Rings or Warner Brothers, or do they come to you, or how does that relationship work?
Yeah, so it's quite a variety of ways. We're actually licensed with Middle Earth Enterprises, so they licensed to New Line Cinema. They hold the rights to the Lord of the Rings IPs, and they reached out to us. We were pretty thrilled to be called and said, hey, would you like to do this? And we said, gosh, absolutely. But usually there are licensing expos. So we've gone to those, and it can be a negotiation. It can take years, to be honest, to find the right person at that company and make the right pitch at the right time that's in line with their overall strategy. You get my drift.
Yeah, the brand is important, right? Like, it's, like they always worried about their brand. I would love, like, if Warner Brothers, if you're watching this, please give Willow your license to Harry Potter, because their company could do amazing things with it. I mean, good Lord, Cloaks and Hoods, please give her the license.
We've talked about that, and we would love to do that.
So yeah, Warner Brothers, if you're listening, yes, contact Willow, please. Well, Willow, where can people find more information about your products? Where can they go to buy your products, social media channels, websites, all that jazz?
Yeah, so we're at volantedesign.us or .com. We originally started with US because we were an American-made company, and we found .com was a little easier at some point for some people. We're on Twitter, we're on Discord, we're on Instagram. We're on most social media platforms as Volante Design. And the website is a great place to find us. We have a really cute Discord that's got really great people in it if you like to hang out and chat about nerdy stuff of all kinds. That's the short version.